Hey, in this video today I'm going to compare the three different film adaptations of the novel I Am Legend to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, as well as the two sequels to it that came out, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid and Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. You have I Am Legend that came out in 2007 with Will Smith, and then Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price and Omega Man starring Charlton Heston. First of all, when you look at the highest Rotten Tomatoes score for each franchise, with I Am Legend, Last Man on Earth has the highest score of 79%. With Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that first movie, directed by Joe Johnston, has the highest score of 76%, so I Am Legend wins. Then when we look at the lowest score for each franchise, with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the third movie, Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, has the lowest score of only 25%. With I Am Legend, Omega Man has the lowest score of 65%, which isn't fantastic, but it is still fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, though, so it's not bad. I Am Legend wins again. Then when we look at the average score, it should be pretty obvious by now I Am Legend is going to win this round because it has an average of 70, whereas Honey, I Shrunk the Kids only has an average score of 47. Then when we look at the gap between lowest and highest score, with I Am Legend, lowest score 65, highest score 79, so only a gap of 14. Funny I Shrunk the Kids, you have a bigger gap because it's 51 between 25 and 76. So I Am Legend wins again, meaning the franchise is already going to win this debate, regardless of my personal opinion. But let's look at this. When it comes to the I Am Legend franchise, these films certainly don't tell the story in exactly the same way. There's definitely differences between them. Like, for example, in the 2007 movie, mankind is the direct cause of the disease that brings about this apocalypse. Whereas in the Vincent Price movie, it seems like the plague just happened through chance. It was a random accident. That's basically what happens in Omega Man 2, which is different from the 2007 movie, where the message is basically that, oh, humanity inadvertently brought this apocalypse about. Also, when it comes to the zombies, there's differences. In Omega Man, the zombies of vampires look frankly pretty weird. They're wearing black, they have sunglasses on, their skin is white. It's different from the 2007 movie, to be sure, where the zombies are literally just mindless monsters without a shred of humanity in them whatsoever. The villains in Omega Man actually have some humanity to them. In Last Man on Earth, this is one thing that does admittedly feel pretty dated. The zombies are also just mindless monsters, but unlike the 2007 movie, they are not very threatening whatsoever. I mean, when you watch that movie now, you're like, wow, these zombies are slow and stupid, and thus Vincent Price doesn't have to work very hard whatsoever to beat them. All he has to do is just shove them out of the way. Also, when you think about it, in the 2007 movie, we learn that Robert Neville actually had a wife and a daughter. He then lost them, not actually directly due to the disease itself, but due to an accident. Whereas with Charlton Heston's character, he doesn't have a family that's no longer with him, so there's less humanity when compared to the 2007 movie. Also, in the 2007 movie, the dog that is also in last we also see in Last Man on Earth has a greater connection to our main character because in that case it's Robert Neville's pet specifically, not just a stray dog he found on the street. I think it's interesting that these films all took liberties with the story. When you think about the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids films, they're all honestly doing pretty much the same thing. I mean, the details are different, obviously, because in the first movie, the kids are shrunk. In the second movie, this kid is blown up so that he's really big. Then the third movie, the parents are shrunk. But in each case, you have this guy, Wayne Skalinski, who is very smart in some ways, but not smart in other ways. Like, he's very book smart, but he's not very street smart. He's a perfect example of the mad scientist or the harebrained inventor, to put it another way. In every movie, something goes wrong that results in something happening that needs to be fixed. So I would say I prefer the I Am Legend franchise just because the movies do things different. Also, actually, in the original book, Robert Neville is not a doctor, a scientist, a member of the military, anything like that. He's just a common everyday plant worker that had to teach himself everything. Whereas in every single film adaptation, you're dealing with someone that has training and experience, so has more of an advantage. Personally, my favorite version of these three is the 2007 movie. It's the one I've seen the most often. I've only watched Last Man on Earth and Omega Man once. When it comes to that 2007 movie, I think the way it ends is really powerful. I like that with this movie, it sends the message that while things went really, really bad for mankind, there was this apocalypse. It was terrible, but there is actually a light at the end of the tunnel. There is actually hope because there's a cure that we see at the end of the movie. Robert Neville sacrifices himself to bring the cure to people who are still alive. Also, I think it's really powerful, honestly, that prior to the very end, when Neville is talking to this lady, Anne, she is the one who's hopeful, telling him that God has a plan. This angers Robert Neville, understandably. He's saying to her, hold on a minute, if you believe that God is real, then you're telling me that God stood by and let this happen. He didn't do anything whatsoever to save all the people who died, who turned into zombies. How can this all be part of a plan? How can this have a purpose to it? But then you get to the moment where the zombies are about to break through the glass. Robert Neville hears his daughter's voice telling him about a butterfly. And in that moment, you see that finally Robert Neville is truly at peace. It's pretty clear he believes that upon his death, he will see his wife and kid again. Thus, he chooses to perform a heroic sacrifice to make sure that the cure is brought to what's left of mankind. Also, man, that scene where Sam dies, it hits me really hard. It's so powerful because Sam was Robert Neville's only companion all that time. And then when Robert Neville loses Sam, and then he's screaming to zombies, die! You can tell that at that point, he's totally fine with dying. Not because he's performing a heroic sacrifice, but because he feels like he has nothing left to live for. He feels like he has no reason left to keep going. So he's like, I'm just going to kill myself and take some of these zombies with me. Also, after this, we see Neville go back to that store where all those mannequins are. He goes up to this one female mannequin, and he's desperate for her to talk to him. He's breaking down. He's like, please, please say hello to me. We just see how desperate Robert Neville really is for someone to talk to him. And also, he decided, I'm going to keep my end of the bargain. I promised Sam I would try to talk to her, so that's what I'm going to do. Also, when we first see this, it's pretty sad when you notice that, oh, Robert Neville has attached names and personalities to these store mannequins as a coping mechanism to convince himself that he actually has people to talk to. Though I definitely say I like I Am Legend franchise more. I think all the movies Honey I Shrunk the Kids franchise are fun. They're all entertaining, but they're all kind of doing the same thing. Well, that'll be it for now. Bye, everyone.